Mr. James Corden for services to drama.
BTS has one of the largest armies on planet Earth. Historic moment. It actually marks the first time 15-year-old girls everywhere found themselves wishing.
Difficult and obnoxious presenter I've ever worked with is James Corden.
A big mea culpa from James Corden on his late night show as he addressed the controversy that erupted over his treatment of the waitstaff at a New York City eatery. As Amber Cogliano reports, his complaint about the food has left him eating a big helping of humble pie.
I've decided to sign for one more year on the show, and that this will be my last year hosting the Late Late Show.
James Corden was once celebrated as Britain's golden boy of comedy, the cheeky hometown star who crossed the Atlantic and conquered Hollywood with The Late Late Show and Carpool Karaoke. Millions tuned in, charmed by his jokes and big personality. To the world, he was the lovable Brit living the dream. But that smiley good guy act, it turned out to be paper thin. Behind the laughter, insiders say there was arrogance, disrespect, and scandal brewing. The very qualities that made him a household name became the same ones dragging him down. The man who joked his way into America's heart quickly became one of the most disliked figures in entertainment. By the time 2025 rolled around, James had already stepped away from the Late Late Show, trying to stage a comeback with new projects. But instead of rebranding himself as a humbled star, he kept stirring up trouble. Neighbors in London accused him of being a nightmare, complaining about noise, environmental issues, and even fighting his flashy mansion expansion plans. And then there was that infamous Hollywood gala, where he cracked a tasteless jab at Dame Judi Dench, leaving the entire room gasping while social media torched him all night long. So the question now is, can James Corden claw his way out of this pit of controversy? Or has he burned his reputation for good, destined to be remembered as the man who ruined his own legacy?
When the presenters are up here, when the recipients are receiving their award, don't stand with your hands in your pocket, looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here.
For years, he was the pride of British television, the guy everyone rooted for. Born in High Wycombe to an ordinary family, James grew up with nothing but quick wit and reckless confidence to his name. His rise wasn't smooth. The early years were littered with rejections, failed auditions, and moments so bleak, he nearly walked away from acting forever. Then came the turning point that flipped James Corden's whole career. In 2007, he linked up with screenwriter Ruth Jones to create Gavin and Stacey, a sitcom that didn't just entertain, it exploded across the UK like wildfire. The show became a cultural juggernaut, even snatching up a BAFTA, and Corden's character Smithy, the loud, goofy, yet somehow lovable best mate, turned him from a struggling actor into Britain's comic sweetheart overnight. With that cheeky grin, sharp timing, and boy next door warmth, he was hailed as the crown jewel of British comedy. For a moment, it felt like nothing could stop him. But behind the cheers, the cracks were already creeping in. Corden himself later admitted that the success of Gavin and Stacey made him arrogant. His co-star Rob Brydon even pulled him aside with a brutal warning. "You're acting like a right prat." That wasn't just banter, it was a red flag. By then, James was drowning in the chaos of 3 a.m. taxi rides, wild after parties, and paparazzi swarming the London streets. The fame wasn't just chasing him, it was consuming him. Even close friends and family had to speak up, fearing his ego was ballooning out of control. But Corden didn't listen. He brushed off the warnings and kept living like success was his personal drug. Years later, in memoirs and interviews, he finally confessed that fame had blinded him.
Harvey Weinstein has already asked tonight up to his hotel to give him a massage. It's weird watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water. Harvey Weinstein wanted to come tonight, but he'll settle for whatever potted...
Tearing into his closest relationships and feeding a toxic sense of invincibility. And just when he thought the high would never end, the crash came fast. In 2009, Corden tried to cash in on his fame with Horn and Corden, a new comedy series. But instead of praise, he was smacked with brutal reviews. Critics shredded the show as excruciating and compared watching it to a credit crunch bankruptcy, painfully unfunny and embarrassing. James Corden thought movies would cement his stardom, but instead, he face-planted hard. He dove into lesbian vampire killers, and the film was an absolute train wreck. Critics dragged it to pieces, audiences laughed for all the wrong reasons, and it quickly became one of those so bad it's unforgettable flops. Suddenly, Corden's name was less about talent and more about being the butt of the joke. And then came the infamous Glamour Awards in 2010. Sir Patrick Stewart, a legend of the stage, called him out right on stage for looking sloppy and careless, a moment that could have humbled James forever. But instead of showing grace, he snapped back with sarcasm, sparking a messy spat in front of the cameras. The video went viral at lightning speed, and overnight, his reputation as Britain's cheeky clown twisted into something uglier, arrogant, tone-deaf, and embarrassing. But the blunders didn't stop there. In one appearance with Justin Bieber, James leaned in and bizarrely stroked Bieber's face while cracking an awkward joke. Fans erupted in fury, accusing him of crossing the line.
You also did Cats recently.
I haven't seen it. I've not watched the film.
While others just cringed watching it unfold. That once charming humor was starting to look desperate, clumsy, rushed, and out of touch. Just as it seemed like his career was sinking for good, a miracle happened on the stage. In 2011, he starred in One Man, Two Governors at London's National Theatre, a performance so magnetic it revived his entire career. The show's Broadway run sealed the deal, earning him a Tony Award in 2012. Suddenly, the industry was back on his side, and Corden had clawed his way out of the gutter. Then came the bombshell in 2014. CBS shocked everyone by announcing James Corden as the new host of The Late Late Show. Americans didn't even know who he was, and even James admitted wide-eyed, "I'm more shocked than anyone." But he wasn't about to play it safe. Instead of copying the same late-night formula, Corden went wild.
The Beebs and Justin Corden. They're doing carpool karaoke.
That is so funny.
Hey, Bieber. Justin Bieber.
Oh my God.
And James Corden.
Oh, it's so great.
Turning the show into a social media circus full of chaos, intimacy. Carpool karaoke wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. Overnight, James Corden went from that British guy to a global superstar. Who could forget Adele spitting bars in the passenger seat, Stevie Wonder phoning Corden's wife mid-song, or Lady Gaga taking the wheel like she owned the show? These were moments so vivid, they made millions feel like they weren't just watching TV. They were riding shotgun with legends. Then came Spill Your Guts, or Fill Your Guts, Drop the Mic, and a wave of viral sensations that sent his show's YouTube channel soaring past 10 million subscribers. He wasn't just hosting, he was dominating. From hosting the Tonys and the Grammys to landing roles in Ocean's 8 and Peter Rabbit, Hollywood rolled out the red carpet, embracing him as Britain's hottest export since the Beatles. After years of flops, James Corden was finally shining brighter than ever. Bigger stage, bigger spotlight, bigger everything. But here's the truth. No mask stays perfect forever. The very confidence that fueled his rise soon tilted into arrogance, and the cracks reappeared. One glaring moment happened on Jimmy Kimmel Live during a round of Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. When asked to name two cameramen from his own crew, the very people he saw every day, James froze. He tried fumbling an excuse about a different team being there that night, but the damage was done. It wasn't just awkward. It screamed disrespect for the people who kept his empire running. And then came the tastelessness. In 2017, mere days after the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke, James grabbed the mic at a Los Angeles gala and decided to crack jokes about it. The backlash after his Weinstein jokes hit like a hammer. Actress Rose McGowan didn't hold back, publicly branding James a motherfussing piglet, and her outrage echoed across the internet. Fans, critics, and everyday viewers agreed. This was a line no comedian should ever cross. The funny man mask was slipping, and people didn't like what they saw. By 2019, Corden tried to win some goodwill by hosting a Reddit AMA. But instead of playful questions, he was met with a tsunami of pure hate. Redditors unloaded horror stories of arrogance, diva meltdowns, and his notorious mistreatment of service staff. One furious comment summed it up perfectly. What's the point of all the fame if you treat the help like dirt? The pile-on was brutal. James and his team managed a handful of half-hearted replies before bailing, vanishing from the thread like someone rage-quitting a group chat after oversharing. By then, the public had spoken. The rose-colored glasses were off, and James Corden was officially the villain of his own story. If one arena exposed just how far his star had fallen, it was cinema. The disaster began with Cats in 2019, the CGI nightmare that quickly earned a place in Hollywood's Hall of Shame. Dressed head to toe in digital fur, Corden's performance wasn't whimsical or funny. It was pure nightmare fuel. The worst part, he later admitted he never even watched the film himself. In his own words, I haven't seen it. I've not watched the film. Imagine being so ashamed of your own work you can't even face it. That confession sealed the embarrassment, but it was only the beginning. Then came the prom in 2020, where Corden took on a gay character. Instead of bringing depth or respect, he leaned into every tired, outdated stereotype imaginable. Critics shredded the performance as tone-deaf, painful, and flat-out insulting. Viewers compared it to an awkward uncle fumbling through drag. What should have been a celebration of inclusivity turned into another cringe-worthy stain on his career. But the knockout blow didn't even come from Hollywood. It came from brunch. In October 2022, New York's legendary Balthazar restaurant banned James Corden after staff accused him of berating servers over a botched plate of eggs. Keith McNally, the fiery New York restaurateur, didn't mince words when he blasted James Corden online. He called him a hugely gifted comedian, but a tiny cretin of a man, the most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers in 25 years. All this chaos over an omelet. Reports say James snapped when the dish wasn't perfect, sparking a meltdown with staff and demands for free drinks. The tantrum was so ugly, McNally slammed the ban hammer. No more Corden at Balthazar. James did phone McNally to apologize, but the remorse didn't last. Days later, in a New York Times interview, he shrugged off the scandal, insisting he'd done nothing wrong. Then, on The Late Late Show, he dedicated a long segment to defending himself, only to tack on a half-hearted apology at the end. It felt less like regret and more like damage control.
Someone puts up a poster in a town square that says, guitar lessons available.
That's like going into a town square, seeing a big notice board, and there's a notice, guitar lessons.
I mean, that sign wasn't for you. It was for somebody else. You don't have to get mad about all of it.
Fine, it's not for you then. Just walk away. Don't worry about it.
But once that door cracked open, the horror stories poured out. Directors branded him the most uncooperative host they'd ever dealt with. Writers accused him of scheming to slash crew pay. Acquaintances whispered about him ignoring his wife and kids mid-flight or snapping at waiters in luxury hotels. The facade of the jovial, kind-hearted Brit was gone, replaced by whispers of diva tantrums and power trips. The comparisons to Ellen DeGeneres came quick and brutal. Just like Ellen, James had built an empire on kindness, but only for the cameras. Behind the scenes, the truth painted a much colder picture. By 2022, the fallout was undeniable. The Late Late Show was bleeding viewers, its ratings spiraling downward. Even carpool karaoke, once the crown jewel of late-night TV, started to feel stale. Fans were stunned to learn that in many carpool karaoke episodes, James wasn't even driving. The car was being towed by a rig. He claimed it was for safety, but viewers felt duped, and the magic was gone. Then came the backlash. Corden mocked their UN visit as unusual and belittled their army fandom as a bunch of 15-year-old girls. Millions took it as disrespect, and the fury was instant. Around the same time, Ricky Gervais accused him of lifting a joke from Afterlife, while staffers described him as controlling with a hair-trigger temper. The cracks in his image were impossible to ignore. So when James announced in 2023 that he was stepping down from The Late Late Show, nobody was surprised. His more time with family excuse felt like spin, and his finale with Adele and Harry Styles landed flat. More side than spectacle. CBS didn't even replace him. They killed the show entirely, a brutal verdict in Hollywood terms. By 2025, James had slipped into the background, dismissed as yesterday's news. But in a surprise pivot, he resurfaced with SiriusXM's This Life of Mine, revealing a rawer side, family stories, industry confessions, even grudging admissions of past mistakes. Some hailed his SiriusXM podcast as the most authentic glimpse of James yet. At the same time, he dipped back into British TV with The Choir on Apple TV+, earning praise for sounding more grounded and mature. For a moment, it sparked speculation. Was this his path to redemption? But back in London, trouble followed. His lavish villa renovation set off a storm of complaints, endless noise, choking dust, and accusations of environmental damage. And then came the scandal that cut deepest, his own words. At a Hollywood gala while introducing Dame Judi Dench, he cracked, "One magical evening where Dr. Fauci had a one-night stand with Dame Judi Dench." The crowd froze. Dench forced a smile, but the discomfort was brutal. By the next morning, headlines screamed, "One joke, One ruined evening. Social media torched him, with one fan summing it up. If after all those scandals he still hasn't learned respect, maybe he never will. So the question isn't whether James Corden will find work again. Opportunities will always pop up for someone with his talent. The real question is whether he'll finally slow down and learn. Redemption won't come with another flashy carpool or forced apology. It'll show in the smallest gestures, remembering a crew member's name, thanking staff off camera, choosing jokes that don't cut others down, and owning mistakes without spin. If he doesn't, the spotlight will cloak him again, only to trip him up at the worst moment, and the world will watch, some ready to forgive, others eager to see him fall, while pop culture quietly records the legacy of a star who lit the stage bright and then burned himself in the blaze. If you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think James Corden deserves redemption, or is he finished for good? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.